You're the CEO of the National Road Transport Association. How many drivers have you got under your command, so to speak?
Well, it's a bit hard to determine that exactly, but
Lots.
lots, thousands. Yeah.
And you say, I mean, it's an alarming thing that this whole country is going to grind to a halt fairly soon if you don't find 25,000 truck drivers. Wow.
Yep. So we've participated in a worldwide study, first time Australia's partaken in it.
Yeah.
And it's showing that as a minimum we have 26,000 vacancies that could be filled immediately if we had trained truck drivers.
Golly, what about the trucks? Don't you need the trucks as well?
Look, there's trucks parked up now because we don't have enough people to drive them.
Oh. Well, does any other country have this kind of problem, or is it something peculiar to Australia?
No, it's a problem throughout the world. So whilst we rely heavily on a lot of drivers coming in from other countries, those countries also have driver shortages.
Yeah, well, when you look at the priorities of the government and things like climate change and so many turbines and, God knows what, I mean, the greatest priority you'd imagine for a government to concentrate on would be to keep the supply chain going.
100%, yeah. And this is the thing. I mean, this is why we find it frustrating. We just can't get change in this industry. No one seems to take it seriously. It's not until you've got a COVID pandemic until everyone goes, oh, well, geez, this transport is so great. But we're getting to critical shortages of drivers now, and we're getting to a situation where the average age of a truck driver is probably 55 and plus. So you can see what I'm saying. The freight task is going to rise by 57% by 2040.
Yep.
We need to do stuff. We need to start training people.
Yeah, and here they are talking about what's on the shelves and in terms of price and availability and all, and supermarkets with too much clout, too much power. They're obsessed with this kind of thing. But underneath their nose, they're not concerned that very soon there won't be anything on the shelves, or that's a possibility.
Well, that's the possibility, yes. So cost of transport has got to increase. So the cost of living is going to increase. There's potential that there will be definitely shortages on supermarket shelves and on pharmacies and, the essential items.
But Warren, what's the problem? Because is it the fact that the job isn't appealing, or it's over-regulated? I mean, what is preventing young people and immigrants coming to Australia? Because I was saying to Jeremy early in the show that if you look at taxis and you look at Coles, Woolies, home delivery services, almost every driver is wearing a turban, so there's lots of people coming in from overseas who are obviously filling those roles. But there must be some sort of hindrance to Australians and other nationalities driving trucks. And what's your view on that?
So the biggest issue is that it's a hard job, but you can enter this industry. You can be earning $100,000 a year. You can work 1 day a week. You can work 7 days a week if you like. You can be owning your own business in no time. You've got a job for life, but people just don't know about this industry. And the main issue with young people is the career paths aren't clear. So people coming, deciding what they want to do out of school, they want a clear career path. But this country doesn't even have a national training program for drivers. Each state's got a piecemeal thing that really doesn't do the job. So that's one of the major issues. When you talk about overseas drivers, look, we really rely on them to keep freight moving. So it's essential that we have them. But when they come here, they've got to go through a competency-based training, and they should have an Australian licence. At the moment, it's too loose. They can come in, they can not be capable of driving the truck, and we've got incidents of that. But still, they're essential for our industry.
Warren, it must be one of the easiest jobs to get into. I mean, people say to me over my lifetime, well, what's an easy profession to get into? And I say, look, painting is one of them because you don't need too many resources or a certificate to paint buildings or paint rooms, houses. But obtaining a driving licence is pretty fundamental to being part of life. Almost everyone who reaches 18 wants to have a driver's licence. And the next step is to get an endorsement on that driver's licence. It can't be too hard. And if you're saying there's plenty of job opportunities and good money to be made, then is it because Australians are now too lazy? Is it the government isn't playing its role in all this?
I think it's a whole mix of things. 80% of our freight is moved within the metropolitan area, right? So you don't have to be away from home for days on ends. But you do need, look, you can get a license, and this is the problem. The licensing procedure stops younger people coming in to be able to drive trucks, and that's one of the things that we've been asking for. But to jump into a big truck, you think cars got technology in? Well, triple it for a truck.
Are they easy to drive?
Well, no, they're not. They're not easy to drive. You can't put someone in, a Kenworth truck and send them across the Nullarbor with a B double because they'll have an accident. So they need experience and they need training.
And they're very powerful and very big and long. Mind you, when you think about it, every kid, every little boy, I don't know about every little girl, but every little boy would want at some time in his life to be a truck driver.
Yeah, that's right.
It is a very a romantic kind of business. I remember a business partner of mine years ago, Alan Scott, told me the story how he got started, came back from the war, and he had an old beat-up truck, an ex-army truck, and he started doing a run between Adelaide and Mount Gambier. Then he got another truck. Then he got another truck. And the story is the same for people like Lindsay Fox.
Yeah, that's right.
Huge fortunes these people have made in a simple way of working hard and building a business based on the demand that is there.
Yeah, both those guys are legends in the industry. But what you're saying is 100% right. What other industry can you come into and earn that sort of money and potentially turn yourself into a billionaire without going to university?
Yes.
And Warren, I mean, if someone's an owner-driver, I guess there's two categories or perhaps more, but there's people who work for companies and everything's done for them. But if you're an owner-driver, from what I understand, you're running your own small business. It's not an easy task because of government regulation. Is that the truth?
That's the truth. So 60% of freight gets carted by moved by owner drivers or small operators. Yeah. If you're an owner driver on the road, there's no doubt about it. It's a tough thing because you've got to keep the business going. You've got to organise the freight, etc., etc. But the biggest impediment to those guys is the antiquated national heavy vehicle law that we run under, and that we've been trying to get changed for nearly 10 years, and we just can't get the government.
What do you want to change it to?
Well, it's about removing the ridiculous things in there that impede transport and actually impact safety. So we need to have, more flexibility in the area of managing fatigue. We need to have greater access on our roads so they don't have to apply for all these permits. Yeah. And we need to get rid of these ridiculous prescriptive fines that they get fined for that don't impact safety in any format.
Too bureaucratic.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And does the price of fuel, how does that bear upon these people and the variation in the price of fuel? I mean, one of the big things is most of those vehicles would run on diesel, which used to be the cheapest fuel on the road. Now it's become one of the most expensive fuels, which is a hard thing to understand.
Yeah, so their biggest cost, the small operators, is fuel, and you're right, it impacts it dramatically. And the other issue that we fight for on behalf of them is making sure that, they can get some sort of fuel levy in their contracts. But a lot of the time, these guys can't pass the cost or the increases in fuel along for some time, or if at all, and they've got to bear the cost. So, we work with, one of the big companies, Ampol, to provide that fuel to them at a cheaper rate. But it's a major problem for them when they can't plan with fuel going up.
Warren Clark, he's the CEO of the National Road Transport Association. Warren, have you brought up any of this with the government or with the Minister for Transport?
Yes, look, we have. We work tirelessly with state government and federal governments. It's taken a long time, and a lot of work. We liken it to a leaky bucket. You just got to keep putting time into it to get them to listen to you. And transport has not been taken seriously, at the federal parliament until basically COVID hit, and now we're starting to get people listening. This current government is trying to make changes and is trying to work, but we've also got all the state jurisdictions that we've got to bring along the journey too.
Well, there could be nothing more important than keeping food and stuff on the supermarket shelves.
Yep, that's correct. And the truckies do a fantastic job for the country to keep it going.
Yeah, the bumper sticker that a lot of truck drivers used to have, which said, truck drivers carry the country.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that for a while, but it's something that should be right underneath the noses of people every day.
100%. Everything that's on your table or in your house has been on a truck at some stage.
Yep.
Last week, Warren, we learnt that there was a 700-page piece of legislation put through by the government regarding workplace relations and workplace laws. What's your take on that? Because the guest we had last week was talking about that's going to be the big bazooka that's going to cause a problem to the economy.
And to the small business person.
Yes, because of casual rates and casuals being considered to be permanent part-time and getting full entitlements like full-time workers do.
Yeah, look, it's a large piece of legislation, like you've said, and it's extremely complicated, and that's the problem with it, right? So, I can only look at it for transport, the transport side of it, and there's a special section in there for transport. Now, the thing about it is it is in place, so you can either fight it or you can try and work with it to try and make it work. We see that we will be able to get some changes through that legislation that we just simply haven't been able to do. And it's more than just about pay rates and casual things. Look, we'll take casual, permanent, part-time. We don't care. It's not a big issue in our industry. We just need the people. But we're looking at that legislation to help us with unfair contracts that, the big end of town, the Coles and the Woolies put on the smaller guys. And we're looking at changing a myriad of things, waiting times and all these sort of things that our industry faces each day.
One of the priorities that this government seems to have is trying to electrify everything on the roads. I cannot see how they could possibly have electric trucks with the same sort of power and capacity as the current fleet.
No, look, as it stands today, the technology is just not there, and the battery capacity is just not there, and you've also got the weight, right? So long haul freight at this stage, it's quite a way away from changing. But if you think about 80% of your freight is in a metropolitan area, you can certainly look at electrifying trucks in those smaller trucks around the cities and the towns and things like that. It definitely would work there.
Warren, we're here in Adelaide, and I know that Nicole Flint, who's putting her hand up to be a member for Boothby again, she's having a forum at the Waite Institute this Sunday regarding heavy vehicles coming down our cross road from the southeastern expressway, because residents don't want that. Now,
they want what's on the truck.
Yeah, but what's your call on that?
Well, look, that's a specific issue, but I think what we've got to realise here is that the trucking industry and the people that partake in it don't want any safety issues, right? They're the biggest supporter of delivering freight safely. Mm-hmm. But when you start banning things and you start reducing access, just be prepared that it may not be the best thing, and that you're going to create a major problem.
Well, there'll be consequences.
How things actually get delivered.
There'll be consequences.
Exactly.
Among the truck drivers, what sort of reputation does that Southeast Freeway, as it particularly comes down the hill, and I know they say that everyone has to come down in a truck in low gear and all of that, but it is still not without its dangers. Is that the most dangerous piece of road in the country?
Oh no, I think there's others that are in the eastern states. Sort of, there's dangerous pieces of roads. But look, it's an important thing, and no one wants to see anyone injured. So people need to adhere to the speeding regulation. It's in there for a reason.
Yeah.
Look, just stick to that speed limit, and I mean, accidents happen. But
What's the best truck on the road?
Oh, well, it depends on what your freight task is, but I'd have to say Kenworth.
Kenworth.
Yeah.
Kenworth,
and then you've got, it's a big American truck. Everyone wants to drive a Kenworth. There's a large history that goes behind the Kenworth truck.
And they're beautiful to look at too.
Oh, they're fantastic trucks. It's like a Colt. It's a legend. And actually they call one of their trucks Legend. But, there's other good trucks coming in from Europe now for a different sort of freight task, and it's a DAF truck that's a pretty good truck too. So
Warren, the US has its Route 66. Do we have an equivalent here in Australia?
Probably
Nullarbor?
across the Nullarbor or the Hume, maybe even the Hume Highway.
Well, the Hume always had a good reputation. Well, not necessarily a good reputation for the number of deaths between Melbourne and Albury, but that's an interesting piece of road.
What about women? Are women more likely these days to be attracted to driving a truck, or you very rarely find a woman behind the wheel?
It's a big area that we want to attract females to our industry. They do a fantastic job. They're fantastic operators, and traditionally, it's been a male-orientated industry, but there's no reason that women can't come in and drive trucks. And I think if you look closely behind a lot of the businesses, you'll have females that are actually, running the business or doing various jobs throughout the supply chain.
And talking about truck drivers, but in a different vein, is there a shortage of truck drivers in the mining industry?
100%. There's a shortage. Well. I mean, they suck a lot of the drivers because, as you know, you go to the mines, you get paid a lot of money, but with that money comes other issues. But they suck a lot of the drivers. But there's still a shortage there too, particularly in WA.
So across the board.
And right now, 25,000 people, you need them, and the country needs them as well.
100%. Yeah.
Good to talk to you, Warren. Good luck with it.
All right. All the best.
Cheers.
Thank you. Warren Clark, CEO of the National Road.